And record. Ja, hij loopt weer.
Okay. Hi guys, and welcome to a new Tools for Dummies live. And this time we'll show you how to make a graphic CV in Illustrator.
Yeah, and we're using Illustrator because you already know Illustrator, and Illustrator has a lot of options that come in very handy when making a graphic CV. But we will show you later on.
So as an example, we take Danny's CV because he actually used this for his job interview at Hunter, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think it might have saved me because I'm very bad at job interviews, seriously. But thanks to partly my graphic CV and your good words about me, I got my job over here. Awkward, but it's true, it's true. You can, well, at least save yourself from the very first phase in applying for a job by having a CV that stands out from the rest. And that's because those people get a lot of CVs and it's all text, and they're just, well,
scanning their CVs
and literally putting aside a lot of the CVs before going further. So if your CV is the one that stands out, then you're one step ahead of the rest.
Yeah, so let's have a look in Illustrator.
So this is my graphic CV that I actually use, and you can already see that there's a lot of information on it. But most people have at least a contact section in which your personal information is mentioned. Your work experience, so your new, well, hopefully new boss will know what you've done before, and your education, of course. And what I did is make it a bit more personal by adding an About Me section and adding things like my skills and the specialties, so the things that I'm good at, because it's important for my job right now.
Did you look online for some examples?
I certainly did look online, and this is a very smart thing to do for you as well. I just Googled graphic CV, and there's a lot of examples on there, and mine should be found in between these ones as well, because it's based on one of these designs. Yeah, just scroll through them, click on one, choose the elements that you really like, and use them in your own CV.
So you already looked for some examples you liked, and now you're ready for the next step, and that is picking a color scheme. As you can see in Danny's his CV, he chose a dark blue and a white, and you can see that he chose a different kind of shade from that blue. And I will show you how you can make that. So if you go to the other Illustrator file, I already recreated some skills graph, but now we're going to take a look at the colors. So if you do want to have a different color in there than only blue, you can choose for a complementary color. And what is a complementary color? That is the color that has the best contrast next to the blue one. And you can Google that as well. For example, if you Google on complementary wheel, you can see that if you have the opposite of like a blue is an orange, so between a yellow orange and an orange, and the opposite of yellow is, for example, purple, green, red. So that's how it works. In design, when you're a designer, most of all you use this wheel for the best contrast. So back to Illustrator. So I've made just like little squares here, and I already have my basic color, the blue one. I have my complementary color, but I also want to create these kind of different kind of shades in there. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this square with Alt, hold Alt and drag a new shape out of it. And I'm going to change the opacity to 75%. So you can just select your little square, you can go to the opacity in your top menu, and you can change it to 75%.
I have to add a little thing to that because you can only see the top menu bar if you first go into Window and then Workspaces and then choose Essentials Classic.
Yeah, that's really important because normally when you start up Illustrator for the first time, you don't see this. You only see the essentials.
Yeah,
And
it's on Essentials by default.
Yeah, so always work in Workspace, Essential Classics, and then you can see the top menu. So yeah, now we've made a different kind of shade of this blue in 75%, and you can copy this one as well. And choose the opacity for 50%.
And the last one for 25%.
So why are we making these silly rectangles on the side? Because it's really easy when you, for example, make a shape and you want to have it a different color, then you can just go to your tool menu and you can search for the eyedrop tool, and then you can scroll over your color scheme and you can give the shape the color you want. So you also have different options to choose your color scheme. In Adobe, if you check the swatches panel, you can find it in Window and Swatches. There's a menu for color books. So first click on the more options in your swatch library, open swatch library, and you can see color books. And for example, if you choose one, you can already see that you have different kind of shades of all different kind of colors. And this maybe already helps you. So, for example, if you think this is not a good color scheme, you can maybe copy your colors and you can choose from this scheme. So let's have a nice green one. You can just select the shape and you can give it different colors. But for now, I'm just going to stick to the orange and the blue ones because I really like that one.
Yeah, but the idea is that you can see that the colors match and they don't stick out too much to each other. So they fit together. They fit nicely together.
And then the last option for to pick a color scheme, if you go to color.adobe.com, you can already see that you have the complementary color wheel as well. And if you change them, for example, to more greener, it already picks the complementary color and a different kind of shade to it as well. So this works really well. So for example, if you would like a bright pink, Danny, for example, you can just copy this color code with Ctrl+C. You can go back to Illustrator and you can double click in your color panel and you can paste the color in here in your little menu. And then you can see it changes, click on OK, and you have a bright pink because now my opacity is on 25%, put it back on 100 and your pink is there. So that's another option. There are also a lot of different color schemes in the Adobe website. If you click on Explore, and for example, if you search on summer, you can already see that they even base it on different kind of pictures. And you can also add it to your library so that you immediately have those colors in your swatch panel. Yeah, so that's all you need to know about colors. Oh, one more thing, because you have a difference between RGB colors and Cmyk colors. So for example, if you click on one of those colors, you can really paste the color code in there.
Yeah, that's the hex code for the RGB colors.
Yeah.
But there's also something like Cmyk. And Cmyk are the cyan, magenta, yellow, and K stands for black. And those are the colors that are in your printer or when a magazine is brought to the press. Because those things mix the colors in a different way. And your screen uses RGB, so red, green, and blue, to come up with new colors. And there are way more RGB colors than there are in Cmyk. So if you are already sure to print your CV, then you could change your color mode into Cmyk, and it will give you a more limited number of options for the colors. But then you are closer to the end result for that. If you preferably work digitally, then you can leave your scheme on RGB, like we are doing right now.
Yeah, and you can change it. You can always change the color mode in Illustrator if you click on Edit, and you can click on Color Settings, and then you can change between RGB and Cmyk. Okay, so that's for the color scheme. You have 3 different options to pick a great color scheme. We already find maybe an example of your CV. So now we're on to the next step, because we have to visualize the information you gathered for your CV. And you can make, of course, graphs, but you can also use a lot of different icons. And we have something great for that.
Okay, a lot of you already know Font Awesome, but still we keep repeating it. It's a very nice font to have. Go to fontawesome.com and you have the option to start for free. Click on it and you have the option to go to desktop. Click on that one. And there is another button. It's a lot of buttons, but just click again and it will download a zip file to your computer in which you have the Font Awesome font. I already downloaded it, so you can see this folder over here, because you need to unzip the zip first. On Mac it will do it automatically. On Windows you will have to use the unzip button that you will see in your Finder window there. But after unzipping, you will have this folder, and in there is this OTFS folder. Open it up, and you will see 3 different kinds of Font Awesome fonts. The Brands Regular, the Free Regular, and the Free Solid. Double click on it, and you should double click on all 3 of them after each other and install this font. After that, it will be added to your computer, and you will see it appearing in your fonts menu in well, any app you have on your computer. If you don't see it, just restart the app and it will show up after that. Well, these 3 versions of the font correspond with the Font Awesome cheat sheet. Go to fontawesome.com/cheat sheet and save it, well, bookmark this one, because you will need to use it a lot. At top of the screen you will see 3 tabs. One is solid, one is regular, and one is brands. And if you scroll down, you can see all the kinds of different icons that are available in this version of the font. So solid has the most of them. Regular has the outline versions of it, but there's not a lot as with the solid version. And the brands is also very nice to use, because brands literally has these, well, brand icons. Example, here I can already see a Bluetooth icon over here. But the fun thing is, if we go back to my own graphic CV, then you will see that I have some information, my contact information over here, and it doesn't have any icons yet. So we could use Font Awesome to add some nice icons to that. For example, for my LinkedIn page. So let's put this aside for a bit. Add a new text box. So click on the T, click on one time over here, and then go into that cheat sheet and search for a LinkedIn icon. And there I have it. And just double click on the icon you see, so it's selected, and copy it with Command C or Control C on your Windows computer. paste it into the text box there, and you will end up with a square with a cross in it. Don't panic now, it's normal. Select it and then go into your fonts library and select Font Awesome Brands Regular. I already have it over here, and you can see that well, the square changes into that icon that you have just selected in the cheat sheet. Last thing you need to do, click on the arrow, right click, or click with 2 fingers so this menu shows up, and create outlines of it. So it will be a shape instead of the font. Now, you can drag it a little bit lower so it will nicely align with the text, and use the eyedropper tool to select the text over here, and it will change the color into that of your font so it will fit nicely together. Now, this you can do with all the other, well, information that you have on here as well. So making use of Font Awesome will give you a lot of options to add icons to your graphic CV. And graphic CV is all about, well, the word already says it, about visualizing information that you would otherwise have typed out. And the goal here is to visualize well, as much information as you can by using the icons, but also by using things like graphs.
Yes, so as you can see in Danny, his CV, he used this kind of language skill graph. So he's speaking very good Dutch, mother tongue.
Yeah, I can speak Dutch very well, yeah.
Yeah, and English as well. And I've made a couple versions of like a skill graph for you, and I want to make that together with you. And let's start with the basic one that Danny is also using in the graph. And it's really simple, but it already looks more professional than you would like write it out in,
yeah,
in
it does.
Word. Yeah,
it does.
So we start with just a regular circle, and you can find your circle in your tools panel. And now the rectangle tool is on, so I'm going to right click on it and you can select the shape you want. So I'm going to go for ellipse. And when you want to have an equal circle, you always need to hold shift. So I'm going to hold shift. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to make 2 circles, one bigger one and one smaller one, because I'm going to work with the shape builder tool, and the shape builder tool is not really compatible with working with strokes. So I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to make it, you can copy a shape by holding Option or Alt and drag a new one out of it. So you hold it and you drag it and then you release. And you can make the shape a little smaller. And you can give it a different color, just so you can see that it's on top of the other circle. You have to align it, of course, because you want to have it really in the middle, so you can select the 2 shapes. Then when you have your window panel on Essential Classics, you can find your align panel on top as well. So what we're going to do to align it to the center, we're going to click on the horizontal align center, and we're going to click on vertical align center, and then you will know that this circle is exactly in the middle. So we're going to select them both again, and we're going to go to the shape builder tool. That's the one with the little cloud in the arrow. And you can already see once you scroll over it, there will be a plus appearing. But when you hold Alt or Option, you can see a minus is appearing, so you can remove things. So with plus you can combine shapes, with minus you can delete shapes. So I'm going to delete the center, and now we have a nice donut. So to divide the shape into 3/4, I'm going to make a little rectangle as well. And I'm going to something like this. And I'm going to align it again, so select both shapes, align horizontal align center and vertical align center. And now I'm only going to select the rectangle and I'm going to go to the rotate tool. So select the rotate tool, make sure the rectangle is selected, and you can already see when you zoom in that it finds the middle of the shape. So we want to rotate it from the middle, so I'm going to hold Option or Alt, and then I'm going to click on the middle. And then you get a new panel with rotation, and I want to rotate it 90 degrees, and if you click on Preview, you can see it's rotating 90 degrees. And don't click on OK, but click on Copy so that you have two rectangles. And now you have a beautiful cross. So what we're going to do, we're going to delete those little parts in here. You can do it with the Shape Builder tool as well. So select it, go to the Shape Builder tool, hold Alt or Option for removing those little parts in there, and then we can delete these as well. And then you already have the basics. Now the only thing you have to do is to give this circle a different color, and you can right click on the Release Compound Path, or you can select, or you can click on the Direct Selection tool to give it a different color. Let's check if that works. No. So first you have to right click, Release Compound Path, then you can select your shapes. Your shape you want to give a different color. And there it is. So for the other graph, I can show you how I did it really quick. And basically I did the same, so I've made two circles, one smaller than the other one. And I've aligned it, and I'm going to cut out the middle part. Then I'm going to make a copy of this donut. And I'm going to make those, I'm going to make a cross again with my rectangle tool. And I'm going to align it again. Select your rectangle because we're going to rotate it. Go to the rotation tool. So this is all repetition of what I did before. Option, 90 degrees, copy. And instead of only removing this part, the parts in between, I'm going to remove this full part. So go to the Shape Builder tool. And we'll go, oh yeah, I have to remove this. Remove. Delete, delete. And what I did in this circle, I rounded these edges. And you can do that really easily by selecting your circle, go to the Direct Selection tool, the right arrow, and then you can see those little dots here. And if you click and hold and drag them down, you can see you can round the edges of the corners. So now the only thing I have to do is to give it a different color. I've used a little gradient in here. And put it over the other circle. So you have a slightly different effect, but with the same basic steps as I did with the other graph. And you can play around with it. You can use, instead of a circle, a square, or for example, you can divide even your scales So these are your Illustrator skills. So you can make infographics with Illustrator, you can make a logo with Illustrator, a graphic CV, for example. So you can be as creative as you want to with those graphs.
Yeah, so you can see that it all comes to your own creativity as well, because these are just two examples, but we hope that you can see the possibilities you have with these shapes.
Yeah, it's all about recognizing those shapes and thinking, oh, how can I recreate this? For example, if you have an example CV. So let's move on to the next important thing, fonts.
Okay, basically you have two kinds of fonts. One is the serif and the other one is the sans serif. And you can clearly see the difference between the two of them. And the serif, that's literally those kind of, well, decorations you have on the ends of a letter, and it gives it a more classical look. While on the other hand, you have the sans serif, and the sans serif doesn't have them, and it gives the letter a more modern look. And well, they say that a sans serif will work a little bit better on a screen, and a serif font will work a little bit better on paper. But there are other well, reasons to choose either one of them. You could maybe use a sans serif for your headings and a serif for your body text, and then mix the two together. It will give you a nice look. I only used a sans serif font because I wanted to have a modern look to my graphic CV, and the one I used was the Open Sans font. And some of them will already be included with your computer or with Adobe, but there's a lot of options to add extra fonts to your computer. You can, for instance, make use of free sites like 1001freefonts.com and download them from there. But there's also a lot of fonts included within your Creative Cloud subscription, because if you open up your Creative Cloud desktop app, you have this a font section over here. You can click on it, and then it will open up the Adobe Type kit, and yeah, you will have lots of fonts over here that you can use. Yeah, but
Keep it a little bit clean. Don't use too much.
yeah, don't use these kind of fonts.
No, because first of all, the readability goes
down.
down. Yeah,
It's difficult to read them.
and it's not that professional, I think, if you use a lot of handwriting fonts.
No, so make use of the other fonts that you see around this one. You can make a selection over here as well. So you have the sans serif. So they will show up over here, or the serif fonts. See? So you have them, and that way you can leave out the handwritten ones like these, or the decorative. It's not very usable for a graphic CV. It's usable for other kind of things, like
Yeah, like a logo design, for example.
yeah, maybe a logo, or if you want to invite people for your party, but not recommended for your graphic CV. Yeah, well, these fonts are included with the Adobe subscription, so you will lose them when you don't have the subscription anymore. An alternative to that is to go to Google Fonts, so fonts.google.com, and you will end up on a website that looks very much the same as the one from Adobe. But then you can make a selection, click on one, either select a couple of styles that you would like to have, or download the entire family by going to this button over here, click on it, and it will download the zip with all the font, with the entire font family. Install it, and then it will show up in the font menu of your Illustrator app, and then you can choose to use it over here.
So the most important thing for a clean look is to align everything what's in your CV. So that's the most common mistake I see in first year's graphic CV, that some things are placed randomly on the page, icons are not aligned in circles, but it is really important for a professional and clean look. So let's have a look in Danny's CV how he aligned his text.
Yeah, so back to my CV, you can already see some blue lines running through my CV. They don't make a lot of sense right now because they are clearly, screwed up a little. But what I originally did, I first activated the rulers by clicking on Command R. And then you have the option to drag one of those guidelines down, and you can use them to stick those text on. So to align everything. And here it's still very much the same as I had before. So I can align this block to this blue line over here, and then align this and this block and the last one as well. So it will be perfectly above each other. And well, over here it doesn't make any sense anymore. But I can drag this line back to the right, and then you can clearly see that everything is aligned perfectly to the left side of that.
And are these lines in the final export, or?
No, you don't know. Luckily, you don't see them. Even if you did see them over here and you exported your graphic CV, you won't see them anymore. But you can also activate and deactivate them by using Command or Control and semicolon to show them or disable them. See?
So because the Align tool is going to be your best friend, I'm going to show you how it works. Oh, my texting is gone, but that's okay. For example, most of the time, as you can see in Danny's CV, he also put some icons in circles and also have some text in it as well. So I'm going to show you how you can align your text in different kind of ways. So for now, I'm just going to make some circles, bright and orange. So the first option that I want to show you is most of you are going to drag a frame and then you're going to put in some text. Let's give it a different font. Make it a little bigger, or we'll put it on semi-bold. So now, for example, if you want to put it in a circle and you select the text and the circle and you're going to align it, you will see if you horizontal align and you vertical align it, then it will only align the text frame around the text and not the actual text. So we see this a lot in different kind of assignments. So you can solve this in two ways. First of all, you can create outlines for your text, but then you can't change the text anymore. So when your CV is almost completely done, we recommend you to save two different kind of versions of the document. So first you're going to save it without outlines, so you can still change the text, and you will save one with outlines. So how can you create outlines? So right click on it, on the text, and you can see an option to create outlines. And you can already see now it's building a frame around your text. So you don't have a text frame anymore. Then you can select the circle and the text, and now you can align it properly. So this also works with your icons you've downloaded from the font Awesome, for example. First create outlines and then you can align it correctly.
Yeah, you can already see that the text is not editable anymore.
Yep.
The text is now changed into shapes.
Yep. Another thing, you can just click on the type tool and you can click once and then you can create a text. When you go back to the selection tool, you can see that now the frame that's around the text is not that big anymore, and it only makes the frame around the text that is there. But you can already see that you still have some space left in here. So that's why we always recommend, if you want to align your text, create outlines, and then align, and then you will be sure that the text is aligned correctly. Because now when I align it, you can already see, yeah, these are not on the same level. Yeah, you can see a slight difference.
Well, maybe if you drag one of those guidelines, you can compare the two. So first Command R, and then drag a guideline, and then you can see if the text is on the same level.
Yeah,
oh, it's close.
It's kind of close.
Well, then this was a lucky shot.
Yeah, this is a lucky shot, but normally it works best if you align it when you convert your text, your font into shapes, so that you create outlines. So now I want to talk a little bit more about the aligning options. So the first one we already showed you. So you can select your text, you can select your option, or your shape with option. Then you can see in your top panel the align panel, and you also have options. So now it's aligned to selection, so it will align to your selection. You can also align it to your key objects. So if I move this text, for example, and I'm going to select the circle and the text, and I'm going to align it to key objects, then first you have to select the key object. So I want to align the text to the circle. So I'm just going to click once on the circle and there will be a blue line appearing. That's correct. And now I can align it. And you will see that only the text is moving and the circle is not moving anymore. So if you already have your circles aligned, for example, you can use align to key object that you will know that the text in the circle is only moving and not the circle. And you also have a different option for align to canvas if you want to align it to the canvas. So you can see, or align to artboard, and you can align it to the middle, you can align it to the sides, or you can align it to the top, for example. So here it is. So this works really handy if you, for example, group your hobbies and interests, and then you can align it to the canvas later on. So you have different kind of options. You can check align to selection, align to key object, and align to artboard.
Now you already know a lot of things to go right away and start with your own graphic CV, but there's still some tips and tricks left. So have a look at this.
So the first tip or trick is for the background of your graphic CV. So you can change the color background, but it's more a preview version, and when you export it, it doesn't change the background color. So what we do to change the background is to use or a rectangle, or you can use, for example, a picture with a nice texture. So if we zoom in on Danny's graphic CV, you can see he used some kind of paper texture for the background, and it gives a really nice effect to it. And it's still white, but you still have some extra, something extra to your CV. And you can check if you see the layer panel. You have the paper texture. So this is just a JPEG. And you can, it's now a clipping mask, but when you undo the clipping mask, you can see he reduced the opacity to around 70%.
Yeah, maybe, around that.
Around 70%.
Just change it to your liking.
Yeah, and then you have some like cool texture to your graphic CV. And of course, or if you don't like it, you could just stick to the white background. But it's also really handy that you can lock your layers, because before, when you didn't lock it, you can just move the background all around. But when you lock it, you can't move it anymore. So you can only select the text or your object that's on there. So always make 2 layers for your graphic CV, one for your background layer. Maybe you want to use some structure as well, so you can lock that as well. and use one layer for all the visuals and text. You can even make one text layer and one layer with your icons and graphs on it.
Yeah, you can add as much layers as you want. If you prefer to use even a separate layer for the kind of information blocks that you have, then you can also choose to do that.
Yeah.
And group them together.
So play around with your background layer, and maybe you can even add some cool effect like this.
The next tip is on using shortcuts, because shortcuts will save you a lot of time. You can see the shortcuts when hovering over the tools in the toolbar over here. So press V for changing to the selection tool, press A for the direct selection tool. If you want to type text, press T. You have the shapes while pressing, and you can find the shapes when you press L. And so there are different options as well. Like for example, you can make a copy of this circle when pressing Command C and then Command V. That's one of the most common uses of it. But you can also hold down Option or Alt and then click and drag, and you can make a copy of it. Use Command S to save your work and time, or use Command Z when you made a mistake and you want to go back some steps. And if you want to go forward, you can press Command Shift Z and it will go forward a step again.
Yeah, the most of shortcuts I use is Alt to copy objects because it's really handy, and Shift to drag an equal shape.
Yeah, that's one as well. But I don't know how you could drag an equal shape while not using Shift, because I think that's the only option.
Yeah, you
to
can
do
do that. But then you have a shape that's just...
Yeah, it will do this.
Yeah.
So that's one of the most important. It's not really a shortcut, but just a thing to remember when making a perfect shape. To make a perfect shape, always hold down Shift.
So another tip for your design is to add a drop shadow, for example. You can already see in this figure I've created some more depth in there, and you can do that as well. But most of the time, for example, when you want to have a drop shadow, you can go to Effects, Stylish, and click on Drop Shadow. And if you click on Preview, you can see you always have the dramatic effect. You don't want that. So most of the time I use only 1 or 2 millimeters for the X and Y, and for the blur as well. Oh, not 90, but 1. And then you can already see that you have some nicer effects. Maybe even less, like half of a millimeter.
Yeah, it's looking already less as if it's hovering way above your paper.
Yeah, this is better. And you can even choose the color. For example, if you don't want to have black, you can go for grayish. Or when you have a black background, you can choose a lighter color. And now you already have some more depth in there. So you can do that for text as well, but don't overdo the drop shadow effect. And also don't use it like it's really dramatical, that it's floating on your paper.
Yeah, because it's not really the design trend that there is nowadays. Because if you would use the very dramatic one, then it will give you a very, well, like it's 1990. And
yeah. That's not really pretty.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the flat design the trend that we have right now.
Yeah. So another tip is the rounded corners. So I already showed you how to do that, and I want to show you again. So for example, if you click the rectangle tool and if you make a rectangle, you see you don't have round corners in here. But you can change that if you click on the direct selection tool, click on your shape, and you can see those little dots appear. And if you zoom in and if you hover over the little circle, you can already see a little curve coming up. So if you want to have all the corners curved, you can just click and you can drag like this. If you only want to have one corner curved, hold Command or Control so that you only select one. Or is it Option? I'm always confused with those two. No.
Hey, but it did give a nice effect, see? It did it the other way around.
Yeah.
Try it again with...
Oh yeah.
see what it does? It
Yeah,
gives
the other way.
What is this?
I don't know. That's cool. I didn't even know that, so. So to only select one, I think, or only clicking once. Yeah, so if you click once, you can see this one is selected and this one is not selected. And then you can just curve this. Yeah. So you can play with it a little. For example, in here I've made it like a total rounded corner. In here I only made a little rounded corner. Just the details. Yeah.
Very nice.
So we have one final clip how to make one final tip how to make a clipping mask.
The clipping mask is a little trick to give a different shape to, for example, a picture like you have over here. Well, I can already see that this is a picture from a couple of years old because I don't have this hair anymore. But what I did was make a round picture out of a square one. I can disable the clipping mask again. I think I first have to ungroup this because I also added a blue circle. So first ungroup this one, then select my picture again, click with 2 fingers and release the clipping mask, and then you can see it was a square picture. And what you need to do to make it a round one is add a shape, like this circle over here, and I'm going to do it very quickly now. Lay it over the parts that you would like to appear in the circle, within the circle. You can lower the opacity for a little bit to make it easier to see. And then the last thing you need to do is select the 2 of them. So select the picture. And then select your circle, right click, and click on Make Clipping Mask. And then you will see that you will have a rounded picture. And, well, okay, it doesn't look as nice as it was. So I would just go back with the Command Z and leave it as it was.
Yeah, so this does not only work with circles, also works with rectangles, or even when you make something with the pen tool.
Oh, that's fun, because I could just make a shape, a different kind of shape.
Yeah, and then you can paste your photo into it.
So let me release the clipping mask again, and then, well, maybe use the pen tool and draw a quick star with this. Well, it's not really a star, but it will work. So this very strange shape over here that I'm going to make, and then close it down over here. And then select the 2 of them and again make a clipping mask. And then you can see that you will, it's looking like, what is this? Like a
You're my star.
cookie. So yeah, well, to sum it all up.
That's how it works. Yeah.
That's how it works. You can do it with any kind of shape. Let's revert this quickly to how it was. And there you have it.
Okay, so what did we do? We talked about different kind of fonts. We showed you how to make graphs, icons. We showed you how to make a cool color scheme. We gave you some tips and tricks. And now it's up to you.
Yeah, make that CV. Try your best. Use the creativity, use our tips. And, well, we will see them coming.
Yeah, and also invest a little bit in to get to know the techniques in Illustrator. Try out the Align panel, it's really important.
Yeah, and what's also important, don't do it exactly as we tell you over here. Experiment
It's just an example.
Yeah, it's just an example. Nothing of what we told you is mandatory.
No.
Because we see that a lot. People doing exactly the same things as we did, but just make use of your own imagination and make variations on what we did. And that's the most fun part of getting to know Illustrator and yeah, just try things out.
Yeah, so maybe in the end you have an awesome, epic graphic CV and you can apply for tool trainer or maybe a cool internship.
Yeah, well, we got into it, so you can too.
Yeah. So we see you later.